And welcome back. Thanks for joining us. My first guest is Matt Janeczko from the Sisters of Charity Housing Corporation. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, George. Nice to be here.
So, Matt, really happy to have you on. This is a great new addition to the town of Clarkstown. We have Seton Village, which has been here for a good number of years, that the Sisters of Charity own. You're the executive director of their housing corporation for the area. And now we have Vincent's Village, which is soon to open, which is well underway with the construction. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, some of the amenities and the opportunities for seniors that both of these sites offer. But before we get to that, maybe you could talk just a little bit about yourself. What brings you to the Sisters of Charity, and maybe share a little bit about your background and what brings you to the position that you're in.
Sure. Well, again, it's great to be here. I grew up in southern Bergen County, right by Giant Stadium. And growing up, I spent time in Rockland for fall baseball. I remember my father driving from Woodridge up 17 and, before the days of GPS trying to find it. And I thought Rockland was so far away. Obviously, it's not. So I grew up in Jersey. I went to Catholic University in D.C., and then I actually joined a religious community called the Capuchins and spent 10 great years with them, served in a numerous series of capacity in education and parish life. And then about 2 years ago, it was time for a change in my life. And so the sisters were looking for a new executive director. And since I know, and since the Catholic world, but I also know the property world, it was a perfect fit. So I've been here since July of 2019.
Which is great. And we've met a bunch of times. And I know Seton Village, which has been here in our town for, I don't know, probably 15 years or so?
2003.
Yeah, so 17 years, I guess, and it's hard to believe it's 17 years old. And it's over off on Convent Road, and it's 104 units, correct?
It's actually 106
Okay.
units spread across 3 buildings of what we would call affordable senior housing. And that simply means that senior citizens who are over the age of 55 can apply for 1-bedroom apartments, and the rents are pegged so that someone who's maybe drawing a pension, working part-time, to try and help them be able to afford the rent so they could stay in Rockland County.
And so, and there's some related services. You have Sister Eileen, who's over there managing, some of the day-to-day operations that you work closely with. And you have a large campus, over there. Now, the sisters decided that they wanted to really move forward. The town has a cap on the number of senior units in any location. 200 is the cap. So the sisters came in with a site plan, and they proposed Vincent's Village. Maybe you could speak a little about Vincent's Village.
So that's another 93 units of housing for senior citizens over 55. So if my father's watching, that's probably not a good thing because wouldn't consider himself a senior citizen, but over 55, affordable housing, and it's going to be brand new. There are both 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, and there are going to be all the amenities that someone would expect. Laundry in the basement of each of the units. There's additional storage space, plenty of parking, and a wonderful green area. And one of the neat things we're doing at Vincent's Village is we're going to have a little convenience store that's not actually a store. That'll be available for residents who need to go and get milk or eggs and maybe don't want to take the trip, and it'll be all on a as-needed donation basis. So really, if you're there, you can live and enjoy that location. We're going to be doing a lot of different social programming, especially socially distanced in this day and age, but whether it be yoga classes or movie nights, allowing people to spread out. So we're really looking forward to starting it up.
And so maybe you could speak just a little bit about the process. I know that I was asked to come on over. There was several hundred people, I guess, that have put applications in for Vincent's Village, and I was happy to participate, along with several of the sisters and yourself in the drawing of the names in the lottery for people to first get in, attempt to get in on Vincent's Village, it's a little nerve-wracking, realizing as you're pulling these envelopes out, and you're reading people's names off, that it's an opportunity of a lifetime for some folks. Some people have been waiting very many years for affordable senior housing, that either to downsize or to move into a better situation. And what could be better than a brand new facility?
Exactly. And so we obviously had a lot of applications come in, and so our management company is going through each of those applications now and sending back follow-up letters to many of the applicants, asking for additional information or clarification. Once we work through that list, we'll then open up a new list, in a sense, where people will simply call or go to the website and get an application, and then come back and fill out the application. We'll put everybody on, in a sense, a waiting list, that it'll be first come, first serve. It's unfortunate because, as you said, it was nerve-wracking for me watching these names be pulled and to recall some of the names of folks who had called us in the office and wanted to know. But that's the only, in a sense, fair way to do it, is to just pull it like a lottery.
Right.
But we're hoping in the next couple months, once we start moving folks in, we'll be able to reopen the list so that people can get back on it.
Right. And you also have a list for Seton Village as
Absolutely.
well. Correct.
Right.
So, and there's a waiting list there as well. Do you know how long that list is roughly?
So the list, it always depends. We had a bunch of move-outs during COVID. In fact, I think some folks wanted to move back in with their family, maybe their sons or their daughters, and we've now rented back up. So the list can go depending from anywhere from 9 months to 2 or 3 years, depending on what your income level is. But that list goes, we just keep moving down the list.
Right. So, and again, just it's affordable senior housing is something that I've been fairly passionate about here in our town. You know, we've for very many years we just had a couple of complexes. Back in the 70s, there was the Carpenters Union that built Middlewood and Middlewood Village, and it ended up being some issues with the Carpenters Union, and the group that owned it actually went out of existence, went bankrupt. The town inherited, took over Middlewood. So the town has owned it through a housing development corporation since the 1970s. There's 106 units. We have Monterey Gardens, which is at in Bardonia on Route 304. It's named Monterey Gardens because it used to be the old Monterey Swim Club. So there was a private swim pool there with, there was kind of an association that kind of closed in the late 1970s, early 1980s, and was acquired, and that's also 106 units of affordable senior housing. We have Squadron Gardens, which is over in New City, which is across from the New City Library, also 106 units. And then throughout the town, we've had, I guess you had to jump up, from the early 80s all the way back up until 2003 with the opening of Seton Village, again 106 units, affordable senior housing. And then we had High Angle Lake, 2 phases, and the first phase opened up around 2010, and the second phase has just opened up within the last year or two. Also, collectively between the two of them, 106 units. And then we have a few other smaller senior sites around the town, maybe not necessarily affordable, but that's the affordable senior housing in the town. So when you think that in Rockland County, the largest segment of the population that's growing are senior citizens. And we hear this frequently. Seniors want to downsize. They'd like to stay in the area if their families have been here or they've lived here for a long period of time. But it becomes very problematic, going from a 4 or 5 bedroom house that maybe they, raised their families in. The kids have all, kind of scattered hither and yon, and what do they have left? They want to kind of downsize. And some folks just, they don't have the financial wherewithal. Maybe they've, you hate to say it, but some ways maybe are outliving their retirement as people are living longer. And so we really have a desperate need for affordable senior housing. And the Good Sisters of Charity really putting together this extension of their mission. And it's really a beautiful story if you think about it. You know, for nearly 100 years, this is property that was owned by the Catholic Church, and across the street as well, that was really geared towards human care, helping people with disabilities, helping children that have been neglected and abused, you know, through various programs. And so those programs are shut down, you know, largely. You have the small, you know, campus, you know, that's across the street beyond the property that's been acquired by the Nanuet School District that serves primarily people with developmental disabilities, you know, run by St. Dominic's. And now the property is being repurposed, and what better use than to have another mission. And the other mission, you went from people with disabilities and you know, orphan children, basically, to the other end of the spectrum, senior citizens who really don't have the financial wherewithal and without, you know, this option.
And that's exactly what the sisters, you know, they're so visionary, George, and they saw that there was a need to respond. You know, they don't call them the Sisters of Charity for nothing. It's charity, you know, what is needed by a community. And so the fact that they've had this property and in a sense read the signs of the times and knew that there was a need, especially as many of the sisters age, that saw that there was a need for housing, particularly for seniors, particularly for those who, like you said, are not able to, in a sense, go wherever they want. And what the beautiful thing about one-bedroom apartments is, and the social services we provide, it's going to allow folks to stay in their own home, a new home, longer than they otherwise would have. I mean, whenever I go home to see my parents, and they're both in their mid-60s, and I walk up the stairs at 2 levels in Jersey, and I think, you know, what, in another 10 years, where are they going to want to be? And to have an opportunity in Rockland County and Clarkstown in particular for folks who want to stay in the community where they know their doctors, where they know their house of worship, where they know the store that they always go to, all of those things, to be able to stay close by and to, in a sense, live out their golden years in a place of familiarity with not the added stress of taking care of a roof and a boiler. That's all my problem now.
Right.
So it really makes it a very rewarding experience.
Great. So Matt, we're about out of time. I just wanted to thank you again for being a great guest. If folks want to get in touch with you or they want to learn more information about either Seton Village or Vincent's Village or any of the other properties, because the Sisters of Charity have assisted living and senior housing complexes throughout the New York area, New Jersey as well. So if somebody wants to get in contact with you and learn more, how would they do that?
So you could call the office, simply look up Seton Village online, and someone, either Sister Eileen or myself, will pick up the phone. Or if they're interested in more broadly in all of our developments, the easiest way is to Google Sisters of Charity Housing, and you'll find the website as the first hit.
Great. Well, Matt, thanks again for being a great guest, and I wish you well. Look forward to the first group of people moving in, hopefully in November.
Yep.
It sounds like, into Vincent's Village, and very quickly having that become another real staple in the community for another 93 residents or folks that will become residents in Clarkstown, seniors that will have an affordable place to be able to live and call home.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, George.
Thanks. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.